All right, welcome to another episode of the Go with John Show. We're here today with Michael Schnitzer, president of Stanley Martin Custom Homes. Welcome back, Michael.
Hey, John.
Good to see you.
How you doing?
Good. So we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what's going on in the building industry with the supply chain and some of the things we're doing over at Stanley Martin Custom Homes to work through this. So tell us a little bit about what's on your mind today.
Perfect. Yeah. So I think everybody knows now that COVID has created supply chain issues, right? And we're navigating through that. I mean, we have a huge corporate purchasing team that buys, has agreements, and is managing commodities in multiple states, in multiple divisions. But what we found that was the most pressing for Stanley Martin and our customers is the cost of framing material, and specifically lumber, roof trusses, wall panels, floor sheathing, roof sheathing, right? So those we call framing materials, right? And what we've seen is the framing materials have skyrocketed and then plummeted, right? So fast forward from the time we sell a house, our cost to build the house could exceed the sales price that we gave to the customer.
Right.
Conversely, the sales price, the cost could have gone down, and now we made more money than what we anticipated.
Right.
So that's, it's depending on where we are with the plummeting and the skyrocketing, it's either A, not fair to Stanley Martin, we have to stay in business, and B, it's not fair to the customers where we're making much more money than we anticipated, right? So we had to find some fair and, most importantly, a transparent way to navigate through this market.
Right.
And it's not, let's give the customer a price and then we'll say, oh, well, let's wait until we start construction and then we'll update your price, right? I mean, that's not fair to the customer. They're going to be like, well, what's the price going to be?
Right. And that's a really interesting point because, I spend most of my days on the front line with the customers, and I'm hearing that, some of the other builders have in their contracts that they have the right to raise prices if their costs go up. But I'm not hearing that the other builders are saying that they're going to reduce their price if their costs go down.
Right.
So it's a really interesting.
Yeah. So I'm trying to balance, right? I mean, our company is, in terms of core value, is focused on integrity.
Absolutely.
And we want to stay within the integrity framework.
Absolutely.
So our answer to all of this is, so let me backtrack. So corporate purchasing, which is many people, 20, 30 people, manage the supply chain and manage costs for Stanley Martin corporate in multiple states. Right? And it's important, right? Because if they can save $100 over many thousands of houses, that has a big impact, just in general.
Right.
So one of the things that they manage, and this has been since day one, is what are we buying framing material for? What is the cost? How do we determine the cost? And so what we do is we're linking the framing material cost to our sales price, right? So the parent company is buying framing material as a commodity. And in fact, corporate tracks, in terms of commodities, the lumber commodity market, broad market, and the panel market, right? And they track it on a weekly basis. So they're getting a chart that has week 1, week 2, week 3 of each year, right, with specific weekly average index values. So the lumber value could be 600 that week, right? And the panel value could be, I'm just picking a number, 500, right? And then the next week it's a different value. So each week we get discrete values both for lumber and for panels, right? The cost that we use is a limited or a finite number of framing material species, right? So we're not looking at the entire market universe of framing material, but it could be 2x10s that are hem fir or 2x6s that are stud grade. So we have a certain criteria of lumber species. And we buy the material by looking at mills in North America and creating this aggregated cost on a weekly basis.
Right.
So customers can go online and they can look at lumber commodity costs, right? And our costs are going to track, right? If the trend is up, our trend is up. It's going to be close, meaning our values will be close to the online values, maybe not exact because we're doing a finite, limited number of species.
Right.
But it's going to be close. So a customer can go online and say, oh, well, what's the lumber market doing, right? So it's in that way, it's a very transparent way to navigate through the sales process and into construction, right?
Right.
The throughout the year, Stanley Martin changes the cost, changes their purchasing agreements with their suppliers. So how do they do that? They look at remember the chart that comes in each week, they look at what we call a prior 4-week average. So what does that mean? So let's just take January 1. So if corporate purchasing was locking in costs for a specific period of time, January through whatever, right? They would go back in time to December and look at the prior 4 weeks of December, look at the average costs for lumber and for panels, right? And there would be a discrete value, and they will use that to buy the framing components. So it's a very easy method in terms for corporate purchasing because they have tons of people looking at this on a daily basis.
Right. So the previous 4 weeks from January 1 would be weeks number 49, 50, 51, and 52.
Correct.
Because we're looking, we number the weeks, the number of weeks in the year, right?
Exactly.
And the first week in January is week number 1.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And we get this chart every week from corporate purchasing, and we send it to customers as needed. So it's very transparent. So then we started thinking, okay, so we've got this index value, right? That's linked to the cost. So what about Stanley Martin Custom Homes? How do we tie this all together?
Right.
So at certain periods of time, we take snapshot costs from corporate purchasing, right? Because we dovetail on corporate purchasing. So that snapshot cost of all costs, windows, doors, framing material, everything, right? The framing material cost has a specific index value, right? That was set with the suppliers, right? So that a sales price for your home has a discrete value or cost associated for framing materials and has an associated index value.
Right.
Pretty easy.
Right. So let me so let me say so the prices on our website and the base prices in our matrix always match. Right?
Correct. They always match.
Exactly. So if our pricing on our website was based on the lumber price of weeks 49, 50, 51, and 52, and somebody buys a house in February of 22, and we've got our lumber factor or lumber prices or prices online is based on the last 4 weeks of the year, that's where that metric is set.
Right. We don't update our prices every week. I mean,
we do every few months. We update our pricing.
Exactly.
Right.
So we have a defined value for lumber components, and we have a defined average 4-week index value.
Right.
Pretty easy. Right.
So that's the first part.
Right. That's the first part. So let me just kind of summarize here for a second. So framing material costs skyrocket and plummet, right? At the start of construction, if the commodity costs decrease,
Right.
what are we doing? We're going to lower our customer's sales price. They're going to have the commodity chart, so they'll
Right.
see it, right? So we're going to lower their price because the index value has lowered. At the start of construction, if the index value increases, then conversely, we're increasing the sales price.
Right.
Makes sense so far?
Makes perfect sense.
Okay. So
So let's just try to tie it together a little more. So the price that is in the contract is going to be based on a specific 4-week average.
it's already predefined in
Exactly.
the sales. It'll have an index value.
Yes.
And we will define the lumber factor only because a customer may buy just a base house, or
Right.
they may buy a finished basement, a rear sunroom, a finished attic. Well,
So
that's
they
going to
could
add
have a
more
lot more
framing
lumber.
components, right? So I
Exactly.
gotta, I need to adjust with what they select.
Right.
Okay.
So the 2 time points are the 4-week moving average that was used to factor the sales price in the contract, and then the second time point is
When we excavate. So
Yeah.
so what we're doing is we're comparing the lumber and panel index, average index, when we set the price.
Yep.
To the index value of when we excavate.
Exactly.
There's 2 time points.
Right.
Time
And both
point A
of them
and
are
time point B.
4-week moving averages.
They're 4-week averages, right?
Yes.
Because it's not fair to anybody to say, oh, let's take a daily average, right?
Right.
That daily average could be an anomaly,
Yes.
right? So
Right, exactly.
this is the way we purchase. So let's just look at an example.
Yes.
Right? And this is hypothetical, right? I'm not saying these numbers tie out to anything. But let's say a house, for simplicity, is $600,000. And let's say the framing material cost, again, just keeping it easy, is $60,000, right? In fact, we call those framing material costs a lumber factor because it's a certain factor,
Right.
lumber factor of the overall sales price. So let's say when we set the sales price, the prior 4-week average was $500,
Right.
right? And let's say the prior 4-week average when we excavate was $575, right? What is that? It's a difference of $75, right? $575 compared to $500.
Right.
So in this example, the difference, the value, right, of the index went up by 15%. And so it's pretty easy. We take the $60,000, that's the framing material cost, we call it lumber factor, multiply it times the percent change. In this case, it's 15%. And so in this example, it would be 15% times 60,000, or a sales price increase of $9,000. Right. Now I'm saying that's the increase model.
Right. Right.
But just conversely, if we have 600,000 and we have a framing material cost, aka lumber factor, of 60,000,
Right.
if the index goes down by 15%, then a customer, instead of getting charged $9,000, is going to have a reduced sales price of $9,000.
Right.
Is going to have a reduced sales price of $9,000.
Right.
Right. So we give the customer the chart that has the average index value, so it's all transparent, that set the sales price.
Right.
And we give the customer the chart at time of excavation that shows the prior 4-week average, and we do the math, and we send them an addendum.
Right.
So this is fair to both Stanley Martin and the customer. It's very reasonable. The only way we can do this is because we dovetail on Stanley Martin and their sophisticated approach to buying materials.
Right.
Right?
Right.
I mean,
Absolutely.
if we were a smaller company, we wouldn't be able to do this. Right.
Right.
So that's just the benefit of dovetailing in. Stanley Martin's a top 20 builder nationally. So it allows us to take advantage of those costs and create a nice, easy, win-win, fair method to navigate.
Right. And I think a lot of this boils back to trust also. And interestingly enough, I think Stanley Martin was just named the second most trusted builder in the country. So our transparency and our desire to be fair, honest, and trustworthy with our buyers, I think this is a great approach. To being fair to the customer and fair to the company.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break. And Michael, when we come back, we'll continue the conversation. Stay tuned.
Sounds good.
A lot of folks think that building a custom home is a complicated and arduous process. It doesn't have to be. At Stanley Martin Custom Homes, we have the process down to a science. We will bring you through the buying, design, and building phase one step at a time. Head on over to webuildonyourlot.com and check us out. Reach out to us if you want to get started on the path to your very own Stanley Martin custom home. Welcome back. We're still here with Michael Schnitzer. Good to see you again, Mike.
Hey, John.
Good. So let's, I think at the highest level, Michael, thank you for sharing all that information with us. I think it's going to be really helpful for our prospective buyers to hear how we're managing it. And the good news is, everybody that's building with us right now is living through this program that we have, and the feedback we're getting is phenomenal. And I think, what are you hearing from our customers, Mike?
So before we had this in place, there was a lot of, what's going on and blah, 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 blah. Now, because customers can just go online and see what's going on with the commodities.
Right.
They have a sense of where things are. And occasionally they'll say, hey, can we get a copy of the commodity chart? We just shoot it out to them.
Right.
But really, I'm hearing zero from our customers related to this.
Right. Because it is what it is now.
Yeah,
this is just a fact of life in buying and building a home in 2022.
Right. And, I would say if we look at this at the highest level, from a supply chain, corporate is managing everything.
Right.
Garage doors, light fixtures, you name it, plumbing fixtures, whatever. So they're in close dialogue with manufacturers, right? Like we have corporate manufacturing agreements with Kohler directly, blah, 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 and suppliers. So they're looking at up and down the supply chain. And, if there is, lighting is going to be, I'm just picking this as an example, right? Is going to be delayed for weeks. That information is broadcast company-wide so that we can, Stanley Martin Customs and corporate, better manage when we order materials. So if we were ordering on June 1st, when I say we, the lighting fixtures, maybe we should order on May 1st, right? And now, granted, it would be way too in advance to order in if we didn't have supply chain issues, but we're trying to take real-time feedback on sometimes it's a daily basis, well, let's just say weekly basis, and change our ordering habits to meet the new criteria. And I would say both from a operational standpoint, it's that kind of 80-20 rule. Where do you spend your time? So each week the back office has meetings or a meeting to check on deliverables, right? When are we going to get permits, blah, blah, blah. Construction has meetings, regular meetings, to go over permits and what's coming up and all kinds of stuff, right? But I find that certainly the back office and then my meetings with my executives, that there is a considerable time talking about supply chain.
Right.
Oh, hey, what's going on with this? How's the back office managing this and purchasing, construction? What are you doing to offset, this element. So
Right.
we're spending a lot of time. We're talking about things, and then rehashing it potentially at every meeting until it becomes ingrained. It used to be when we would start a house, we would order windows, right?
Right.
But the
right.
windows are taking a long time.
Right.
So now we had to create a completely new process to order windows well in advance to even getting the permit.
Right.
So, well, what does that look like, right?
Right.
I mean, hey, by the way, we ordered your windows. And the customer's like, well, what are you talking about? I mean, we would never do it that way, right? So
Right.
now we have to have a change addendum.
Yep.
Could be no cost, specifying exactly the windows that we're ordering, right? Because remember, we haven't locked everything in yet,
Right.
but we have to lock in the window order
Right.
early
Yes.
to give us a better chance to get the windows at the right time.
Right.
So now the back office is spending an exorbitant amount of time doing all this work and putting together all this material to review with the customer, to then prepare a change addendum in order to order the material early.
Right.
Whereas in normal times, we'd never have this, many hours of time consumption devoted to just one project.
Right.
So it takes a lot of time. But the good news is we have the information from corporate
Yeah.
to better manage our supply chain
Yeah.
directly.
Yep. And there are so many value adds in dovetailing with Stanley Martin because, you said earlier, if we were just a small company on our own, we wouldn't be able to do this sophisticated lumber factor and indexing. It
Right.
just would not be
Or
possible.
we may not hear of or get wind of
Right.
a potential supply chain issue for several months later
Yeah.
because it's affecting us.
Yeah, and that's
so
where I
we
was
get
going.
it
Yeah.
way in advance because, as a top 20 builder, these large manufacturers want to retain our business.
Right. And we get the data from corporate. So, we were on top of the window situation. We knew in real time
Yeah.
that we had to start ordering our windows early. It's not like we found out by accident.
No.
We were notified. We got the memo from corporate.
Right.
So we started ordering our windows a month earlier than we normally would. Then we started ordering our windows 2 months earlier and 3 months earlier
There's a certain point at where it just doesn't even make sense to order them too far in advance
Right.
because it's too fluid.
Sure.
So it's there's a little bit of a sweet spot there that at some level isn't just black and white, right? Like if John Jorgensen's making updates to the Jorgensens are updating their plan,
Right.
and we want to order the windows, we can't say, okay, well, we're just going to order the windows, and if you update and change your windows, right? I mean, we just can't do it.
Exactly.
So there's some common sense and nuance
Yes.
behind this ordering, but suffice to say that we are spending a lot of time in a lot of detail.
So how do you see this playing out? Do you think this is here to stay, or do you think?
Well, eventually, the business community is going to figure all this out,
Right.
and eventually this will get worked out, right?
Right.
So this is just, I hate to use the word transitory, but this is absolutely transitory.
Right.
But I think we can leave it to America's ingenuity and entrepreneurism to figure out long-term supply chain.
Right.
Right. And it could be that, like COVID's here to stay.
Yes.
But, just different operating environments, different procedures.
Yeah. How do we learn to live with it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is we're selling a lot of homes. I mean, we have a lot of buyers. We have a lot of people standing in line that want to buy a home from us. And why do you think that is? I mean, I have my thoughts, but...
Well, I don't think it's my looks. So let me take another reason for this. So perhaps our prices are very competitive. Stanley Martin being a large entity, people feel comfortable with our just largesse, right? Being able to dovetail on corporate purchasing is very attractive to people in this time.
Yep.
So, I mean, I think that's why. I mean, we have some other value adds, where we will modify designs and get people pricing back quickly and whatnot. Yeah. So that hasn't changed.
Right. I also think the interest rate environment is huge, and I think that people today are telling me, what I'm hearing from the customers is they expect the interest rates to be much higher a year from now, and they expect them to be even higher 2 years from now. So I think it's a really appealing time from an interest rate perspective for the consumer to build now. So I think that's another driver as well.
Yeah, well, certainly we are very busy. We're blessed to be very busy.
Yes, we are.
So the converse would not be a good thing.
Yeah.
And so I'll take the stress of being busy versus the stress of not having any business.
Yeah,
right?
That's never happened.
Yeah. I'm just saying, just in general, forget whether it's building a house or selling a widget.
Yeah.
So it's all good news.
It is. All right, Michael. Well, listen, that was a quick conversation today. So glad that you came in to update us on what's going on with our pricing and indexing. And for those of you out there who are thinking about building a new home and want to learn more, call or click today so we can get you on the path to your very own Stanley Martin Custom Home. And Michael, thanks again for coming in. And this wraps up another episode of the Go with John show. Go out there and build something extraordinary.
Thanks, John.